Hi, everybody. I have quite the group here from Days of Our Lives, all together. Eric Martsolf, Paul Telfer, Serena Scott Thomas, and Linsey Godfrey, who are all in the front hot burner storyline on Days of Our Lives that has been, it's going through lots of twists and turns. There's lots of cover-ups, lots of conversion. And then there's poor Sarah in the middle.
And there's Sarah.
And then, but then there's Sarah. But I first wanted to ask all of you, Serena, you're the newbie to this group, which is hilarious because you're such an incredibly accomplished actress that to have you on Days has been such a phenomenal get.
Oh, you're so cute.
And I loved watching it from the very beginning when you came in the wedding. It was like, oh, this is good. And it was very great casting to have you. So, Eric, what's it like working with Serena? What has been your impression and takeaway from your time working with her?
Oh my goodness.
I saw her name on the call sheet and I was familiar with her. And I remember the first time we ran lines in my dressing room and I asked her point blank, I said, how did we get you?
How did we pull this off?
How'd this happen?
How did you get it?
And she looked at me with all the humility in the world, said, young man, I'm an actress and I auditioned and I got the part and I'm here. And just down to earth and happy to be there. Reminded me much of Stacey Hydoop's energy when she first came to the show. Just excited to contribute, to add, and add she did. I mean, she's just been an asset to this storyline. I don't know who else could have pulled it off, but she's brilliant. I love her.
And then they said to you that Eric's going to hit, that Brady's going to hit the sheets with her. What did you think of that?
Oh God, that was mortifying.
Lucky doodle.
At this point,
I pass my sell-by date for those kind of scenes.
I was excited. I'm like, yeah, give me blue eyes. That's fine. I like it. No, it just made sense. I mean, when they put me with Kristen, that was so forbidden, right? To put the son with the father's lover. Why not put him with the grandfather's lover? Let's just keep going with it.
Yeah, because that fact makes me laugh all the time. Is that I am technically Eric's aunt.
And Xander is my uncle.
That Tate is my great nephew.
The family tree is just getting weirder.
Only on Days of Our Lives. Paul, you got an on-screen mom. Like,
I know, finally, right?
You had to be excited that they were like finally going to bring in Xander's mom. Yeah.
For ages, and the show, they like to keep their secrets, and they certainly like to keep them from me. So I had no idea what was going on. I just knew that we were getting, somebody, and so I kept asking around, like, who are we going to get? Who's it going to be?
So you didn't know?
No, I didn't know. And I was hoping
he was so excited too. Sorry.
But no, yeah, I really was. And, very often with like major storylines like that, they'll do like a chemistry read. They'll bring actors in and you actually get to play with it. I guess that's more for like romantic roles though. And so, but I was hoping maybe they'd do something like that. So it was more, I was just like so curious and so excited about it. And so when I found out it was you, Serena, I was, like super over the moon. But then it was that whole thing of like, well, what if she doesn't like it? What if it doesn't fit? What if she's a grump? What if, like all the various things that you can't help. But,
grump.
And then I remember the very first time I saw you in the corridor, and it, like just straight, like your energy straight away was just like one of, that you were happy to be there, and you just kept looking around at things, like you weren't like head down, and you weren't a grump. So I came running up to you, and I was like,
kid in the candy store.
He went like this. He went, Mom, and I was like, oh, I like you.
Linsey, what happened when you laid eyes on Serena? And you knew of Serena, I am assuming. Yes,
I was excited.
Yeah.
Well, because Paul was like, came like basically like knocking my door down. Was like, you'll never believe who they got to be. And so I was so excited, and we walk on set, and Serena and I meet. Immediately she said something and she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I have a potty mouth. And I started laughing because I love naughty words more than any other person in the world. And I was like, that's okay. I said, that's one of my favorite words. She goes, well, it's not my favorite word, it's my second favorite word. And then I said, that's my second favorite word. And then we said what our first favorite word was. And then we laughed. And then we hugged. And then we did the scenes and we kept laughing. Like we were immediately like holding hands. We were immediately hugging. We were immediately like Serena. I love Serena so much. It makes me so devastated that she's not still here with us. I'm sure she likes being home too with her family, but yeah, I mean, I just fell immediately in love with Serena, and and as like a group too, like Suzanne and Serena really hit it off. And so like as a little quadrangle of the four of us, like we loved being together because Paul and I also love the shit out of Suzanne. And I only call Suzanne mom, and then Serena was also mom, and like it was just we could all sit here and go sing Serena's praises forever and ever and ever and ever.
Serena, so now it's your turn. What do you have to say
I'm
about
not
this?
used to all this.
What happened when you met? What happened when you met Eric, and then you found out like, oh, she's gonna sleep? Like, what was your thought of the whole?
God, I think I rang up my husband and said, "Oh my God, they're making me do that." Of course, I hadn't. I don't think I'd met. Have I met? I don't know if I'd met you yet, Eric.
No.
And I was honestly petrified because it's been a
while. on screen.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
What are,
I might have had.
Be more specific.
No, it's just like I'm 63 years old. It's not really. I don't know. I had, of course, in the earlier part of my career, there was a lot of that.
Well, Serena, if I may interject for a second, remember that moment on set where you looked at me and you went, how old are you? And I told you how old I was, and you went, oh, then it's fine. Oh, okay. I don't know why I made a big deal of it.
So the one thing I noticed many things, and I could speak for hours about how much I love you guys and how much I appreciate how welcoming and helpful you were to me. I mean, that was just one of the best periods of my life, truly. I just feel so blessed. It's just, it's hard to put it into words, to be quite honest. One thing I did notice was that you all look and play so much younger than you actually are.
Yes, we're very immature.
Yes, we're all a bunch of Peter Pans. We've never grown up.
But I've noticed this about all of the actors in soaps. They all look really young. What's up with that? It's a week off every 3 weeks. Maybe it's, not 20-hour days. Maybe it's being taken incredibly good care of by the production. Maybe you're just happy,
Yeah, I think a lot of us love our jobs, and that's one thing my father instilled in me early. Was like
beautiful naturally, anyways, so they don't seem to age at all.
Well, that's true.
What I loved about you, Serena, is that you had, and that's what Paul was just saying. Like I still really love soaps. I really love the soap magic. Like we were talking about this today, or yesterday, Paul, like about watching them be like, okay, we're done with this set. Now it's a police station. It was something else earlier. Oh,
now it's Italy.
Living room.
Now it's magic, isn't it? It's magic. It's magic. And soap specifically is so different because it's how quick we have to turn around. And it was so much fun to watch it through your eyes, Serena, of you being like, neat. Like, this is really neat.
What happened, Serena, when you met your son on screen, your Paul? Were you like happy that he was your son, or were you like, I don't know?
Can you imagine?
I mean, beyond. Paul and I really bonded, I think. Would it be fair to say?
I'd say, yeah.
I mean, you are just, first of all, you are one of the kindest men I have ever met.
Oh, God, isn't he?
And your sensitivity to women's stuff is remarkable. I'm not saying that's not true for you, Eric, but it was one of the things that I first noticed about you, Paul, when we had lunch that first day. I was like, wow, this guy is a unicorn. And do you remember when when Linsey, when we were sitting in the changing room, somebody's dressing room, and we were talking about nails, like red nails that we talk about, and someone had nails done, and he gets this look on his face like that. We go, what was that? Do you hate nails? And he goes, no, I love all that girly stuff. Red lips.
It does. And you know what's so funny? You brought this up, Serena.
It was a candy store, and we were just laughing our asses off.
You know what's so funny is yesterday I got my nails done and I went somewhere new and I hated them. And I was like, I went and got them redone last night. But before I got them redone, I was telling Paul I had to get them redone. And he was like, I wasn't going to say anything, but now that you've brought it up, yeah, I did notice. I'm not saying they're ugly, but they're not the best nails you've ever had.
They weren't at the same standard.
Were you messing with her? Is that for reals?
No, it was
Still look great. It was just a standard, you know, like.
Okay, that's something seriously wrong with that, Paul.
So what did you think of Linsey?
I'm not worried about you.
Serena, what
I've
did you
learned
think of Linsey?
a lot about Telfer.
Linsey's like a powerhouse actress in her own right. So I wanted to know what was like working. You come to like work with her.
Well, she's easy to work with. I mean, God, I mean, all of you. I mean, the whole thing just sort of clicked, you know. And one of the things, well, first of all, Linsey, you are such an incredibly, you're like a rainbow, you know. You have this like range of emotions which are just sort of ever present in this beautiful way, and you're not afraid to be yourself, and you own it. And I just love that about you, and you bring that into your acting without hesitation. Like is staggering, and your generosity of spirit, you know, it's all about the other actors that you're working with, right? It's like, how much do they give you back? How much are they actually listening? You know, all that kind of stuff. And you know, Linsey, you just have this, you know, you've got like all this energy in this tiny little body. You're like a force to be reckoned with, woman. And I know that you're an incredible mother. I know that you are a staggeringly talented and creative human being, and I just hope you know that.
Thank you so much, man. That's such a big deal coming from you, Serena.
You know what I mean? Don't you ever doubt it.
And I wanted to, Linsey, I wanted to address with you, because you've done these other interviews, but I wanted to address, you know, when the story came about, you and I have known each other since your time on Bold and the Beautiful. You know that. We've shared moments together. And I know when you were struck by the car in real life and what you had gone through, because we had been in touch and we had seen each other, and I was very concerned for you and worried for you. And then this is happening in the story for Sarah, and I was just like, wait a minute. Like, I, as somebody who's known you, was like, did anyone know what had happened to you in the past? Because I know this is very, has to be extremely hard for you to play in many respects. So can you talk to me about what happened when you found out that this was the story? And I've read about how you've been getting through it, but I was just very concerned about it from the beginning. And
well, I panicked first because I was like, oh God, they're killing me off. Or like, oh God, I'm getting fired again. Like, what is happening? Like, and so I emailed Janet immediately, our executive producer, and she was like, no, that's not happening. Like, it's a whole storyline. And then I was kind of like, okay, but does nobody remember that this happened in real life? Do they remember that it's happened in real life and that's why they're doing it? In which case, maybe I should have been asked. And so I still don't know if it was just like, it just seemed like it kind of went over everybody's head a little bit, where you kind of slowly watched everybody click in when they were like, oh my God, yeah. Are you okay? So it was really scary. I was nervous, obviously, because I like my job, and I am a single mom, so I definitely need one. And I was overwhelmed with reliving it. Like at Bold, they wrote it into the show because I wanted to come back to work. And I literally was like, you can film in the hospital room. And they were like, no, you psychopath. Like, let's at least get you out of the hospital before you come back to work. So with Bold, it was part of it because I was actually going through that. So Caroline and Linsey were in step, like, but here it was hard and just, it had been so much time, right? Like this happened in almost 10 years ago. Next year will be 10 years. So I had moved on from a lot of it and had not opened that door in a very long time. So yeah, like dealing with the car accident itself was hard. And it's just a cart with lights. That's what it is. It's like literally a cart. They do this with just to get the lights across you. So that was a little hard. The hardest part was getting in a wheelchair. First, they wanted to put on a neck brace, which I think had it not been tied to the car accident, I would have been fine. But the idea that I was putting on a neck brace and it was about the car, I could not put it on. So they had to leave me without it. So if that bothers anybody at some point, that's why. And then getting back in the wheelchair was really hard. Like I didn't realize how much that was going to affect me. And so like, as soon as I was in it, tears. And it was hard. Like everything about being in a wheelchair that I hated about being in a wheelchair the first time rang true this time. I hated having to physically look up at people. I hated people physically looking down. I hated having to rely on people. I constantly had to remind myself I can get out of this chair. But like, yeah, playing out all of the things that for hard and frustrating for Sarah were hard and frustrating for Linsey. I hated not being able to take care of my own child. I'm a very independent person. I do not ask for help. I would literally rather like break my arm than ask for help. So that was all very hard. The scenes in the hospital where I'm crying to my mom about not being able to be with my kid, those were scenes that was real for me. Conversation with my mom in real life. So yeah, it was really hard. I think once it finally clicked for everybody, like the higher ups, then definitely I was being checked in on. Janet offered to get a therapist for me if I wanted. And they definitely checked in. Each director checked in with me and made sure I was comfortable. Each director asked me, would this be something that you would normally do? Each producer was always on set. So I was very looked after and I was very grateful because it was something that I thought was going to be hard. And then it was just as hard or harder than I thought.
Yeah. And also I don't interrupt, but it just kind of happened, right? Like there was no preamble. You just got the script and it was like, oh, and then we were like shooting it very soon after.
Jeez.
So it just really wasn't a lot of lead time, you know?
Yeah. And I just kind of I flummoxed is such a weird word, but I was a bit like, I just thought it was like, oh, did they talk this over with Linsey in my head? Because I just know it was such a harrowing situation she went through. And sometimes in acting, you guys always take from your real life experiences and put it into your work. And I was just wondering how this would go down. But has everybody so far been supportive of you? Or are they just like, we need to get through the pages, be quiet? Are they? No.
Everybody was really, really supportive. And I got to a point where I was like, where I could finally wrap my head around like, okay, I was also worried that she was going to always be like, incapacitated in some capacity. And I just needed to know that eventually she could figure out whether it's figuring out the wheelchair good enough for herself or figure out just how to be more self-sufficient. Like I was feeling panic about the fact that like my character was always going to be beholden or dependent on another character to help her. And that was triggering to me because I wanted to, so I think I just knowing that there was going to be a resolve in this situation, it wasn't going to be forever. That started to really set in. And when that set in, I got more okay with everything.
Well, one of the tricky things about soaps, like to Serena's point earlier, is you don't know, like you sign on to these things and you really don't know what's going to happen to you, right? You just sign on to the job, essentially. It's not like a movie or a TV show where you'll have all these sample episodes or the whole script where you know what's going to happen. So Serena signs on, doesn't know that she's going to be paired up with Eric, doesn't know that she's going to be holding a pillow over Linsey's face like a couple of weeks later. It's just the way it goes. And it's the same for us. Like, you can be doing it for 10 years, and it's still, the next script can completely, radically change your work experience for the next 3 months to the rest of your run on the show. So, yeah, like, she had a lot of just trepidation. It's like, oh, is this it? Is this going to be my character now? Like, wheelchair lady? Okay. Like, but
Oh my God, I'm feeling so guilty because I had no idea that had happened to you in real life, right? And
Yeah.
when you first wheeled yourself in the wheelchair, I think I said something like, "You do really good wheelchair."
You do good wheelchair.
You do good wheelchair.
You do really good wheelchair, and
There's
and
a
then
hashtag.
like, is she messing with me or is that for real?
I had to get in one the
You
other
were.
day for something, and immediately had to do like a quick turn on it, and the tile was too slick, and so I couldn't get it to turn. And I was like, did I lose this skill? Like, there's no way. But it was just that the wheels couldn't grip on the tile. Like,
Eric, I wanted to ask you about
Yeah.
this whole downfall of Brady's that started with the Teresa double wedding, and he's going to take a drink, and we saw him just kind of literally go backward, or go back to his addiction and just kind of be like not careful and careless a little bit. And I know you like that place for Brady. That's that great place to act in. But what do you think about the downfall right now and what he's done? And he doesn't realize, I believe, where we are, that he's part of the reason that that she got hit by the car.
We're at the point where he is in
Right.
full guilt mode about it. He believes he did it.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he has no doubt that he did it. As a matter of fact, even when his family members come to him and say, "Hey, you might want to take a second look at this." This is the fun stuff for me. I mean, it sounds crazy to call this kind of storyline fun for an actor, but this is the hard stuff. This is where you put your work in and you make your nickel, is by bringing these very important and tragic stories to the surface. And I love it. I dig my teeth into it. And he's a guy that just wants to be a good example for his children at this point and accept responsibility for what he believes he did. And he's ready to face anything. I know the preview has Xander essentially beating him with a baseball bat, and he's standing there going, "Go ahead, take your licks.
Yeah,
I deserve it.
yeah.
Give me my punishment. Break my legs, break my face." And that's rock bottom. That's rock bottom. So it's set up very well for a giant reveal. Obviously.
What do you think his reaction would be to finding out that Fiona's the one who drove the car and she ran down Sarah?
Well, gosh, Michael, I think he's going to be a little upset about that.
Will he stop having sex with her?
Oh, of course not. He'll continue to have sex with her. He's just going to be upset.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Know the realization that break that up. Or
He's just not going to change the sheets afterwards. He's not going to pick up the Jack Daniels bottles. He's just going to, leave that to her. No, I mean, she's his enabler. I mean, they're both enabling each other, which is the other interesting thing about this. She doesn't want to look bad in Xander's eyes. Brady doesn't want to look bad in Salem's eyes. So they want to keep this little secret, but the secrets are piling up, and it's going to blow. It's going to blow, and the backlash is a lot of fun. The viewers are going to love it.
Paul, so you were going to take a baseball bat to. There is that scene with the baseball bat, and he believes that Brady is responsible, and his mother is responsible, and
Well, he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that yet.
I know that. And if he found out his mother was responsible, and when he does, what do you think? How is he going to deal with that?
So it moves pretty fast. The story really from Fiona's introduction to this point, and already he has and Sarah have come to see Fiona as this kind of like godsend. Do you know what I mean? Because she's shown up, and from their perspective, like, Xander's had to get over the emotional hump of all his like past anger at his mum for what he sees as basically being abandoned. Once he started to have trouble with the law and everything, and plus her alcoholism. But then she shifts when she arrives in Salem into making Xander a billionaire by revealing that she, was with Victor, and B, becoming this like carer for Sarah once she's injured,
and Victoria. She's with Victoria while I'm healing. Yeah, Serena is basically, or Fiona, not Serena, but Fiona, yeah, is taking care of Victoria like the most. She's like you'll see, like she has her the most usually, where like Maggie would have her, Fiona does, and then Fiona becomes Sarah's caregiver as well. Like, so she's like, it's a very interesting thing, and it's not like this. Sorry, I cut you off, but it isn't this evil thing. It was a mistake. It was a bad choice because I don't see Fiona as a bad person, even though I know she's doing bad things. I see her as a panicked person who's a selfish person, but I don't see her as a bad person, because at the end of the day, I think her way of making amends was to take care of Sarah, was to take care of Victoria. Like, she was trying her hardest to be like, well, I can't tell them what I did, but I can do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting.
I was just gonna, and also you can like monologue to Victoria knows everything. Like,
oh yeah,
when
that kid starts talking.
Yeah, forget it.
But so Serena's so Fiona's tried to snuff her out with a pillow, and then Sarah goes to Marlena for hypnosis to try to remember something, and Fiona's doing everything possible to stop everything because she's freaked out. Yeah. So what do you think of that, Serena, of her machinations, of what she's doing, and how? I mean, I guess she's got to protect herself, even if she kills Sarah. As long as she gets back into bed with Brady, that's it.
As long as she satisfies Brady's needs, she's a good person.
She's a good.
That's right.
What else do you want?
Look, I was quite shocked when I saw that in the script. I was like, oh God. Especially because, is that thing as an actor, sometimes you kind of get confused between the relationship in the story and the relationship in the life. And I just love Linsey. And I'm like, oh my God, now I've got to try and suffocate her. This is
we also kept laughing though, too.
Well, you have
the actual
you have to. But yeah, I was shocked. Serena the human was quite shocked. But, I think it's very easy to forget that, well, first of all, Fiona was in, a psychiatric hospital for a long time. So I think for me as an actress, it was, well, clearly it's one of the byproducts of alcoholism is this crazy, and the things I think, it's interesting because you hear people talking about, so-and-so had a relapse and they went and did this terrible thing, right? And it's very easy to judge, oh my God, what and that's just insane. And it is insane. But what I think we all can forget is that person's very, very unwell, and it's not like someone who's not an alcoholic going into a bar and getting hammered and saying stupid stuff and dancing naked around or whatever people do who are not alcoholics. This gets to a very, very dark place for some people. And I think Fiona is very much a survivor. She's had to survive enormous trauma and a tough childhood and lots of abuse from all these different men in Europe and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's what takes over at that point. And she hates doing it. She has to kind of put herself in this really dark place to be able to do that.
Linsey, not fun. I was going to say, Linsey, many fans of the show are hearkening back to the red shoes and when Maggie couldn't walk, and Suzanne's character back in the day couldn't walk, the red shoes. Do you see this as part of that kind of retro telling of that with the daughter? Have you guys talked about that? Has Suzanne mentioned that to you at all, of what, because she did not walk for years on the show.
Right. So yeah, we the hospital scenes that we did, her character talks about it. But Suzanne and I love history just in general across the board, and soaps have fantastic history, and I love people like Suzanne who remember everything.
Yeah.
50 years, she remembers everything.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible. And so yeah, like when I first started on the show, she told me about the storyline of her when she was first on and what it was like for her. And so then again, when we had those scenes, we talked about it again. And then I started asking Suzanne more questions, and she was like, yeah, they didn't give me a wheelchair. I was in crutches. And I was like, oh, but like you could walk? And she goes, no, I was paralyzed and they made me use crutches. And I was like,
Forever.
What?
Yeah.
And I was like, but you were paralyzed. She goes, I know. And I was like, but why would you not be she was like, I don't know. They were so lucky I was a dancer.
Yeah.
She was like, they're so lucky I was a dancer. And she was like, because they she was talking about how the crutches absolutely killed her.
Imagine.
It was,
Yeah,
months and months and months and months of it. Like she was in a farmhouse, that's where
working a farm while being paralyzed and on crutches.
she's milking cows and crutches.
Party, and she's on the
Bales
crutches
of hay.
forever, and finally gets surgery years later. And then he brings her the red shoe so she can dance again because she loved to dance, which was this poignant, a nostalgic big moment from the show that's in all the anniversary packages for the show. So she's probably, it's so interesting that they did do the parallel between the mother and the daughter in that way, but it's completely different circumstances. She wasn't run over.
Right, totally. Yeah, and we talked. I mean, but it was from an accident.
Yeah,
was it? It was from a car accident. Yeah. So, but yeah, we talked about it a lot, and again, Suzanne, so she's the greatest. Like she can laugh and she can joke, and then she's also really sensitive to whatever you're dealing with, and so it was just, Suzanne's like a mom. She's like my mom. My mom always says that when she watches the show and I talk to Suzanne, she's like, that's how you talk to me, which is really funny because I know some people, I've seen that some people take issue with how I talk to Suzanne because they think that like I do like a baby talk. But I, as a 36-year-old woman, call my mom mommy when I'm talking to her. My 41-year-old sister calls our mom mommy. My 46-year-old sister calls our mom mommy. We all change when we talk to our mom. And I've always done that with any character I've ever played, is that I play her different with different people. So I'm very I tend to revert a little bit with my mom, and I kind of am really silly with Xander because that's who she feels the safest with. And she's harder on other people and stuff like that. So Suzanne makes that so easy, but I do think you're supposed to bring in these, like, I don't have to be serious all the time because I'm a doctor. My favorite doctors are silly. Like, truly, my favorite doctors are my silly doctors.
Eric, do you see what the fans will expect in the weeks coming up, just him even further, because he's still so guilt-racked at this point? Do you think he's going to disintegrate even further?
Eric Brady comes to town and is very helpful in getting Brady to realize that there may be more to this story than he believes. So very shortly, episodically, we're going to see Brady come to a revelation that maybe he wasn't the one that hit Sarah. So that, therefore, it's going to begin that path of truth that is eventually going to lead to the big reveal.
And Paul, where do you think
what you're talking about?
What did you say? So sorry.
I said I don't know what he's talking about.
It's always so confusing when you say Eric Brady.
Right.
Trust me.
I'm like, are you saying myself, Eric, playing Brady? Or are you talking about Greg Vaughn?
Even doing this interview, it's very hard. I'm like, so Eric, playing Brady.
It's crazy. No, every time Greg Vaughn is called to stage, I go up just in case.
Just plain shit.
Just Eric, in case. And 9 times out of 10,
Did they call you? Wait, did they call you by your character name or actor name to set?
Sometimes they do both.
Yeah.
They'll go Eric, Brady, Eric, come to stage 2.
Yeah, everybody gets confused.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
maybe I should go.
We had 2 Gregs, 2 Lindseys at one point. Then we have so many characters. We have a character called Leo, an actor called Leo, a character called Abigail, an actor called Abigail. Like, there's a character called Eric, an actor called Eric.
It's pretty crazy.
There's a
But all I
character
know when
called
this
Kate,
reveal,
and then a Kate used to play an Abigail. Like,
And now we have an Abigail. Yeah.
We have
that's
an
what I said.
Abigail.
Yeah, we have an Abigail. Like, there's like 3 different Victorias, by the way. There's 2 actor Victorias,
Oh.
a character called Victoria.
And it gets way worse because everybody on the crew is either called Mark, Mike, or Steve.
Yeah, that's true.
yep, there's literally 17 Mikes and 14 Steves.
Right.
Oh, really?
There are so many Steves.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Paul,
That's
where
fun.
do you see, what can we look forward to from Xander as this revelations begin to unfold? My question is, will he be a doofus in this, or is he going to figure things out?
Yeah.
Xander will be sending Brady.
I want you to make something up entirely wrong, Paul. Like, I just want you to like lead them astray.
Yeah. Lindsay and I keep talking about this, about doing interviews where we completely just lie, just to wrong put all the spoilers, so that you can have surprises in the show. And people are like, oh, we thought it was this because at the interview they said that. But no, so through this whole thing, through this whole thing, like Xander would always rather be angry than sad. Do you know what I mean? Like anger is a much more comfortable, like energizing emotion, I think, for him and for me. And so when he's confronted by things that would make him sad and depressed, he finds the part of it that he can get angry about, and then he tries to smash the thing that he's making angry. And so for all of this run of it, that's Brady, right? Like, not, and people talking about, well, he's an addict, he's fallen off the wagon. None of that's a good enough excuse for Xander, because it kind of makes it worse in a way that he's aware of this issue. Brady's aware of this issue with himself, and he's still regressed, and it's led to Sarah being so badly injured, which is typical Xander, because he's not self-aware, and he can't bring himself to look at all the times where he regresses into his bad behaviors, which he does to Brady. Like, as that all comes to a head, you're asking earlier about what will happen, or what might happen if Xander finds out what his mum has actually done, and it does all kind of come to a head at the same point of inflection, where all that rage that had been directed at Brady now has to shift to his mum, but his whole relationship with his mum has been transformed over the past few months of her being so lovely and useful to him and his wife and his daughter. So it can't be that same kind of like, I want to smash you with a baseball bat, or it couldn't be, should this happen. God. So
Anyone follow that?
Were this hypothetical situation,
If this were to happen in your mind,
that's how he might possibly react.
Might possibly happen.
But it is that, it's that idea of him. It'd be so much easier for him to just be able to be angry, but instead
But
it's
they didn't dumb him
complicated
down, or
emotions.
did they dumb him down in this? Do you feel they dumbed him down, or is he like, got it?
I feel that Xander has been significantly dumbed down since Sarah got stuffed in a suitcase and sent off to a desert island. That was the first time I was really like,
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, we missed
yeah.
that, Serena.
Yeah,
that
that's
was
just
the
that's
first
just a
time.
Tuesday.
That was another day.
The garden shed also got me.
Yeah,
yeah,
the garden shed for sure.
Xander's home away from home.
It was
that
also
was the
interesting
first time.
because you didn't have that relationship with your mom anymore. You see over the course of he goes from being so angry and like guard up with his mom to allowing himself to like love this woman and let her be a mommy to him. So you see, like, Xander starts to soften with her. So the anger that then comes in is very confusing of like, what do I do? Because it's mommy. It's not like, oh, that's my mom. It's almost this like little boy thing in Xander. Mommy. It's the mommy he wanted. It's the mommy he needed. And
he's finally got the mum he wanted back when he was a kid, and here she is, and it's all a lie, because before any of this happened, it had been broken by this, terrible accident with.
But at least he gets
Sarah.
the money. At least he gets the money and the inheritance. Of
but even that I like, because by that point he didn't want it. Do you know what I mean? Like, Maggie had already offered him a ton of money, and he turned it down. And his whole thing with Victor was so fraught and just broken before he died. None of that was resolved, between Xander and Victor in person. It's all this, untangling that Xander's had to do in the aftermath of his death. And even the taking on of Titan and all that, you can see like he's hesitant and not super interested in it until the point comes where it's like, well, this is my life now. I might as well be that guy that I was always trying to be. And so, like the idea that he finally gets everything he wanted and it's all broken, and he doesn't know. He has no idea how broken the foundation underneath it all is. So when the bottom does fall out, yeah, I mean, it turns into some of the heaviest stuff I've had to do on the show, honestly. But
And I was
yeah,
so proud.
I think,
Sorry, I keep talking about it because you should be talking. I can't. Everything comes to a head, and it's Paul's best work.
oh, that's sweet. Well,
It's so good.
I
We'll
see
see.
many nominations in everybody's future.
100%.
I definitely do.
yay!
I do. And Serena, I do. So last words for Serena and Lindsey. Serena, so we're gonna see her kind of get stuck. I'm assuming, like she can't, or she gonna, right? Is she gonna?
Well, that's for us to know and you to wonder.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah,
Well
she also
done.
falls back on some bad
Good
behaviors,
answer.
yeah.
and
Maybe.
Lindsey- okay. And Lindsay, what should we expect in the weeks ahead here? We know she's trying to get hypnosis with Marlena. We know she's trying to recall what happened.
Yeah.
And
It takes an interesting turn. It definitely does. You see, this storyline starts. It kind of kicks off now that I'm looking at it, especially with what we're doing, the storyline that we have been playing. It kind of it kicks off a little bit of seeing a different side of Sarah with like what she's okay with and what she's not okay with, and like that things that wrongs that she's willing to take for the better good of everybody else. Not the better good. No. Whatever. Yeah. But so for like, yeah. So Sarah, you'll see, because Sarah's a very like down the middle of the line. She's a very honest, very law-abiding, good character. She's not a baddie at all. And so you definitely see this kind of deviation from that path is Sarah willing to do some wrongs to keep everyone safe and happy and to keep Xander from losing his shit, and to keep everybody safe, really. Like Sarah, you'll see Sarah, and it's not just this storyline, like moving forward from this storyline, you'll see Sarah make choices that Sarah never would make. She's a very honest, she's a shitty liar. And you see that, like, you see that Sarah's willing to go to extremes to protect Xander and willing to go to extremes to protect everyone from Xander.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. This definitely is a catalyst for a little shift in Sarah and her kind of goody two-shootedness.
Interesting. Well, I thank each of you for being here. Mr. X, Paul Telfer, thank you, Mr. X. Linsey Godfrey, Eric Martsolf, Serena Scott Thomas, so wonderful to meet you finally. I really appreciate you here. Watch this continuing saga on Days of Our Lives, weekdays on Peacock. Have a great day, everybody. I hope to see you all soon.
Cheers. Thank you, Michael.